but we must move on for now. And we have a very renowned psychologist among us, Dr. Shruti Jain, whose work has been enlightening for many peeps. And I invite my comrade for today, Shristi Sharma, to introduce her further to the audience so that they know that what kind of an awesome speaker they have in their midst today. Over to you, Shristi.
Yeah, am I loud and clear? Am I loud and clear?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. This is Shrishti Sharma, a first year Nimbusite and a first year student of BA Mathematics and Economics. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to you introduce to the speaker of the session, Dr. Shruti Jain. She's a psychologist, she's a light worker, she is a life coach. Ma'am, can we not call you a guiding light for many of us? Dr. Shruti Jain has done PhD in psychology. She's approachable, she's enthusiastic, she's emphatic, and that makes her a great life coach. Having worked in diverse arenas, be it parenting, be it teenage, be it career transitions, her arena is really, really diversified. Now, let me get you to the statistics of her experience. So, she has an experience of 20 years and holds 1565 happy clients. So, you will all be glad to know about it. So, moving ahead, I would like to acquaint you with the past associations she had. So, she had been associated with WHO, SEARO, High Council of Canada, British High Council, New Zealand High Council, and many more. Now, she also has received the Best Life Coach Psychologist Award in Delhi and also the Holistic Wellness Award. So, with this note, I would like to call upon Dr. Shubha Dwivedi ma'am, the convener of the Nimbus, to proceed the event with the welcome note. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. We have reached the evening. I mean, we have been discussing, we've been having such amazing sessions since morning, Dr. Shruti, and it's a pleasure having you here with us this evening. And we have talked about a number of issues, and we see that youth, they are susceptible to, a number of problems because of the environment, because of the, social, and social culture, and all of that. And during the pandemic also, we came to understand that the youngsters, they were going through a lot of depression and anxiety and stress, as they could not meet with their peers, and they could not have the life that they were used to in earlier times. So this led to to a great deal of crisis in their personal life. And because of it, people have started saying things like that the 20 somethings are going through a quarter life crisis, and they're looking for ways to cure this intense identity crisis. So I mean, the problems which used to occur to individuals at the age of 40, or maybe after 40, have started happening to 20 somethings. So is it true? I mean, this is one thing. And then we see that digital media and social media platforms are heavily impacting the personal image that youth carry about themselves and others. So it is also affecting their whole positivity and mental well-being. So I mean, I would say that these are all quite insane challenges before the present generation, and they find it hard to open up. And that's why we have this conversation, this platform, Youth Summit, where they can speak out their fears, their anxieties, their innermost problems. And with experts like you, I'm sure they will also get the antidote, or the answers to their queries. So this real conversation about the problems of the youth was truly required. And that the online teaching learning is still going on. I mean, we have not been able to discontinue it, despite the government's making efforts and vaccination is on, but it's still an uphill battle. And before every Indian gets vaccinated. So I don't see that, the children and the youngsters, the college going students, they can go back to their normal lives at anytime soon. So how do you think, these kids, as they are going through personal crisis, and also, a lot of identity crisis, how they can come out of that cocoon and face the life with courage and with enthusiasm as they used to do it in earlier times. Yes, over to you, Dr. Shruti. The floor is all yours. And students, let me tell you, let me reiterate before you that the subject of Dr. Shruti's talk is be the best you. So let's see, what strategy she's going to suggest to become the best version of one's own self, right? So this is very important. So all of you, please listen patiently to what Dr. Shruti is going to tell. Yes.
First of all, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on such a synergetic platform. Thank you very much for having me, Shubhaji, and all the team of, the brilliant, I would say, enthusiastic students who've been working. I was trying to, listen to what the speaker ahead of me was talking, and I think everybody's pretty synergized already, and it's been the day since morning, but I guess you all are doing pretty well and very, very energetic. So thank you. As Shubhaji already, highlighted that the topic I would be talking about today is be the best you. That is being the best version of ourselves. How many of us think it's really, possible to be the best version of ourselves? And what exactly is it? Have we ever tried to figure that out? So for a moment, I would want all of you to just close your eyes, like literally close your eyes. Of course, not dozing off, but just try to listen to one line of what I want to play. I hope the audio is audible to all. So just bear with me. I'll play one or two lines and I would just want you to share after that. How do you feel about it? So let's close our eyes, let our bodies loose. Is the music audible? Now I want you to take a deep, relaxing breath and think about the first two adjectives that come to your mind immediately. And if you want, you can open your eyes after that, note those down, and just keep them with you. So that later, if you want to, just get back and reflect, what exactly did you do? So you can open your eyes, write down those two adjectives, and genuinely reflect actually how long back was it when you really thought about what am I and who am I? So why I wanted to start with this little musical note and this little exercise was that, it's very, very rare these days when we actually want to answer questions like these or we ever address a letter to our own selves. And although these topics are becoming very, very, common and very much talked about these days, law of attraction and, deep breathing and stress relief exercises, especially in the pandemic, as, everybody was talking about, it's been completely a year which has been just an exception in itself. Unfortunate in some ways, but some big lessons to learn there. And I think there's a difference in looking at the way of things that this year has taught us. For example, if I tell you that there is a difference between when you tell yourself that I like you, so you stand in front of the mirror and say, I like you, and then you say, I love you. Is there a difference in that or not? And when you actually think about it, there is a difference. And I can actually explain that more if I want to relate that to an example, that supposing you consider seeing a beautiful flower, very pretty, you haven't seen it ever, and you say that I like this flower, you immediately pluck it. But if you say that I love you, you would want to water that, store that, and nourish that. And similar is the concept of understanding ourselves, nurturing ourselves, and developing ourselves, and on a daily basis. How many of us do that actually? And I'm sure, I mean, even if a few of us are doing it, we will have our own ways, but there are some quick, methods, if followed, can really work miracles. So anybody who would want to share the adjectives that you have written, because instead of being a one-way session, I would rather want that to be a bit interactive if possible, and if that's okay with you. Anybody who can share what adjectives you wanted to.
So, ma'am, I would like to share mine that came to my mind. So, the moment I closed my eyes, it was all quiet and a kind of peace that I felt. And so, the quietness and beautiful were the two adjectives that were hitting me at that time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And in that flash of 30 seconds, as you said, it was so peaceful. Do we generally, do that in the day? Unless we are really tired of looking at the screen, or, being on the phone, or doing the phone surfing.
Yeah, we are hardly able to take that particular amount of time out from our daily, routines and all of those things.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And, thank you so much, Srishti, for sharing, this. This is actually very meaningful. And I was thinking when I was preparing for this session today, when we go to the playgroup, even ahead of that, the one of the first things we learn is actually alphabets, right? ABCD. This is an English debating, group of people primarily, I think.
Yeah, ma'am.
So that's why I thought I'll pick up the, alphabetical example. So even in ABC, if you see, the alphabet that comes ahead of U and V is I. And we seldom realize that, and anything that you put in front of I am, and then you put something in front of it, we actually start becoming that. And we don't know that that's the power, that's the capacity of our thought process. When we are in school, when we are studying science till our 10th class, all of us know that, we are a bunch of atoms and molecules, and all of us finally come back to a bundle of energy. If we cut ourselves anatomically, we will be, protons, electrons, and a combination of that. So that E is equal to mc square is actually true for all of us. And we are just a bundle of energy,
Yeah.
right? And this energy is all the time getting transformed. It can never be destroyed because, and it's so directly related to our thought process that whatever we are thinking, whatever we are feeling is actually creating our reality already. But we don't realize that. And that is what I want as a biggest takeaway from today's session, that everybody may take, that actually nobody else but we are the creators of our reality. And that is why it is crucial to be the best version of ourselves,
Yes, ma'am.
to have that trust in ourselves, right? So the first and most important ingredient, I would say, to nourish ourselves is self-love. And for giving self-love to ourselves, we need to understand that we are a combination of mind, body, this energy, which is the emotions, and the soul, that is our consciousness. So who is practically actually thinking in our brain? Is it me? Or is it somebody else? If it is for my brain, obviously, I'm the one who's thinking into my brain, which means that I and only I am the master of my brain, where the thoughts are being produced. And the secret is that any thought that crosses my mind, if I am able to hold it beyond 72 seconds, it actually forms a part of my secondary memory, which is my subconscious part of the brain, the memory, which is where there is very significant storage. And the interesting part is that originally our bodies were designed and the brain was designed actually to, the subconscious memory was for storing all automatic things. So like, when we get up to do our morning chores routine, how to move our fingers, how to open our eyes, all that memory programming is stored there. But due to all the emotional turmoils or the emotional marathons we go in our lives every day now, in each age group, right from kids to the school going children to young youth people, a bunch of students like you, to people who are working, elderly, everybody has their own kind of stress in life, isn't it? Right. So in that race of the life, we actually forget that this subconscious part of our memory was actually not for storing the emotional baggage, but eventually it starts getting pushing there. And that is when we need to understand that how should we balance that.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. So can we say that most of the times it is not that our strengths or the something that really works out, but in many situations we are really overshadowed by our weaknesses, and that influences us a lot that we are not able to work upon our strengths, but we keep on eliminating our weaknesses instead, and that takes a toll.
Absolutely. And that's something so interesting and important, that you've brought up. And the reason why that happens? Because when we are being brought up, if all of us come to, go back and think a little bit, when a child is growing up, right from the age, like let's say when the child is even 1 year or 2 years, which is the building blocks and the first stage of brain development, uh, all the people around that child who are bringing that child up are always telling, बेटा ये अच्छी बात होती है, बेटा ये नहीं करना, ये बुरी बात है, इसको छोड़ दो. But why you don't have to do, how many people actually tell that, and how many kids can question at that age is also something to consider. So automatic programming that we tend to develop after a while is to showcase the good things, to suppress our weaknesses, and in that process that elimination bit comes in and it becomes automatic programming. So the brain, whose master we are in our own body, basically its primary function is self-preservation. Brain's primary function is self-preservation. Okay. And as soon as it sees a threat coming to us, for example, somebody's negative comment, or if we have gone through a disturbing experience like getting bad marks or a fight with a friend or breakup, anything of that sort, or worry about what will be the future of my career, so on and so forth. As soon as an emotional trigger is there, that defense mechanism takes up and the brain automatically starts eliminating, which is painful. But in 99% of the cases, it suppresses it. It doesn't do away with it, for simple reason that we have been never taught how to do away with it. We have been told often that, ज़्यादा मत सोचा करो, ज़्यादा सोचना अच्छा नहीं होता. But nobody has told us really कि उस सोच को रोकें कैसे? How should we do it? Right? How can we actually stop that flow of thoughts, which is endless? In fact, the truth is that even when we are sleeping at night, the brain is constantly working and the thoughts are being processed even then. And that is why it becomes very important that to be the best version of your own self, to attain the full potential that each and every one of us is capable, we need to practice some daily things which can be done so easily to help us balance our physical, emotional, our mental, and our social and psychological spaces, right? And these tools can be like If we every day set a routine of about, let's say, 10 minutes, I think all of us can invest 10 minutes in our life daily. Set any time of the day, whether it is after you wake up, whether it is before you go off to sleep, whatever your schedule allows, just set aside your phone and everything else with your back straight and your legs crossed. Sit down on the floor with your eyes closed and start taking slow and relaxing breaths at a pace of a formula which is called 6, 3, and 9. Now, at the count of 6, you will breathe in from your nose. At the count of 3, you will hold it. And on the count of 9, you will slowly release it from your mouth. So breathing in from the nose, holding it, and then releasing it from your mouth. Just do that for 10 minutes in a row for a week. And it's a proven thing, sure shot, that you will start feeling lightness in your psychological space. And it can be brilliant if you don't want to do it in complete silence. You can plug in to download a piece of flowing water music or a sound bowl or something which doesn't have words. It only has music, soothing music. Just plug that in, set the timer for 10 minutes, and try and do that. And you will realize that your body has started responding more to you, which will in turn help you to become that best version of yourself that we all are aiming at. Because if I go asking today to the students and all my colleagues or everybody who's here, what do you think is the best version of you? The first response maybe most people will give, ma'am, leading a best life is happy, successful, rich, isn't it? How many of us will say contented and peaceful? Maybe a handful, maybe a few say also. So the thought that it gets me back to is that as soon as you start to relate and understand to the energies, termed energy that I was just mentioning a while ago, all our emotions like happiness, like success, like joy, like love, all of that is actually energy, and all of that is all the time around us in the universe. And it is depending on our frequency we are tuned in, just like when we tune in the radio, the frequency it picks and gets attached to, you start listening to that radio station. Similarly, when you are able to bring a synchronization between the thought that is being produced, the emotion that you are feeling, and the reality you want to create for yourself, that is where the formula is to achieve what you want to create. So when I say that I create my reality, this is one command. If you say that every day for a minimum of 21 times, looking at yourself in the mirror, along with the breathing formula I just gave, you will see the miracle happening less than 15 days. Within less than 15 days. It's a tried and tested thing again, and I can vouch for it. Do that without missing it, and you will come back reporting to me that you told us something and this has started working. So these are a few things I wanted to start from my side, initiate from my side. Another thing I would want to say is that these days we take a lot of load in terms of how to deal with our emotional outbursts, especially in the pandemic. A lot of students of your age come back and tell me that due to the online classes going on and not being able to connect with friends offline and exchange that synergy that used to be, it's been really difficult for a lot of people to focus and to practice that social skill and get that synergy they used to experience earlier. So that connect doesn't feel, and that has somewhere touched down their confidence level. That has somewhere deposited a lot of things inside, the hearts of the children, as well as we are carrying a lot of mental baggage, which needs to be relieved every day so that you are able to focus more, so that you are able to clear the space and create the space for bringing in something new. That also is very, very crucial. And a good exercise to do that is journaling every day. Even if it is a couple of lines, just before you call it a day off, if you just take the notebook, pen down anything that you feel, a couple of lines also, good, bad, or anything that stuck your, caught your attention during the day, even if it is as small thing as a butterfly sitting on the bud of a flower. That also is worth noting sometimes. Connect to your surroundings. Just have a no gadget, no phone zone for half an hour every day and see how it contributes for us to, become a best version of us.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Yeah.
If I may, ma'am, like your words are really the constitution to like lead a very good life. Like to remove those mental baggages every day in our individuals' lives when we are facing so much. And we, the youth, are basically people in making. Like we are not built people. We are currently undergoing a process through which we'll become men and women in the upcoming time. And on that similar note, ma'am, I'd like to divert the topic a bit to relationships, ma'am, as to what role does relationship play in a person's life, be it family relationship, be it professional relationship, be it a dating relationship even. How is it defined and what boundaries does it have? And what is a point when those boundaries must be respected when you are in a relationship of any kind?
Sure, relationships, as I said when I was describing the holistic composition of ours, mind, body, emotion, and soul, I said. So when we are talking about the emotional bit of us, the relationships are one of the key things there. And I would say the first point of attention in any kind of relationship that we are trying to create starts from our relationship with our own selves. So as I said, that the thought production factory is really with us. And eventually, when we are able to hold a thought for more than 72 seconds, it becomes a part of our belief system, which in turn guides our behavior, which in turn influences our relationships, be it with ourselves or be it with others, whether it is your parents, whether it is, with your teachers, whether anybody that you are dealing with on daily basis. And because ultimately we are a combination of negative and positive emotions, and the relationships are also governed by the way we are constituting our emotional world every day. They form a very key part of our life, our entire existence. Because if you see these strong emotional experiences, if we ever ask somebody to share, most of them will revolve around the relationship stories, you know some kind of a breakup or some marks or some experiences. So it's the first thing is to be very mindful about the kind of behavior you are displaying towards your own self first, which starts from the self talk. And when I say self talk, I mean the kind of thoughts and the talk we keep on having inside our own mind. Sometimes when we are, for example, going to a new situation to meet a new person, and we know something about that person in advance because one of our friends told us about that person or we read over the internet. um, we have our own preconceived notions about that particular person. Now that thought process till the time we meet with that person, before that, with whatever is going on in the mind, is kind of a self talk that is happening. If we know consciously and mindfully to make that self talk really positive and focus on what output we are expecting from that meeting, you will see the result will be way different from what we will get if we are just going with an automatic set of mind. So similarly, when in a relationship with a friend or somebody who's important in your life, if you want to ensure that it is a smooth journey, do the self check, self reflection, and mindfulness practicing, and you will see more than half of your problems will be very manageable and your relationships will start to grow positively, right? So for example, if for today's session of mine, when you would have read this name, I am not sure if you earlier had life coaches or people like me on your college functions or something. I'm sure some people would have thought, yaar kya hi session hoga, what is coaching, be the best you. What is going to be there? Maybe it is boring, maybe it is interesting. You would have your preconceived notions. So all of that is self-talk. And now when you actually experience it, you will have something else to tell yourself, which is certainly not exactly the version of what you imagined earlier. So mindfulness, reflection, and balancing. It's a combination of all these three. I hope that answered your query.
Yeah,
Monica.
ma'am, that was wonderfully answered, and we actually came to know how do we need to go ahead. So, ma'am, on that note, can we say from the perspective of the youth itself that it is the instant gratification in the youth that leads us to take that quick decisions and usually takes us into the consequences that we never wanted to. And here the instant gratification plays over us again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. And you know why that happens? So I'll give you a little bit of neuro physiological perspective here. Because generally what I have observed is that youth is very friendly with logic. So a little bit of gyan here so that I'm able to make a little bit of more sense. So all of us, most of us in your, in a college life are between the age group of, 20 to 22 generally, right? So, or between, let's say, maybe 19 to 20 or something like that in the first year, second year, generally. And as per the human brain's development cycle, the second, the third lapse of development, which is from 14 years to 21 years of age, that is the most crucial phase of development where the thought process of a human being is getting much more firmed up and stronger, like a bed of thoughts or the foundation based on which your entire thought process of your life will be established. Unless you know how to reprogram your thoughts. So 0 to 7 is the first bracket where you only receive the output from outside and you don't question a lot. The brain is not capable of that. Then 7 to 14 is when, self identity and difference between me and others established, and the queries and questions start to take a more sincere shape. And then 14 to 21 is the more deeper level. And that is why when we start having this impression that I know what I'm doing is right, and now I'm a grown up, because I'm out of school, because ghar mein bhi aur aaspas bhi everybody's been telling now you're a grown up, you know what to do. So you can don't behave like a child. Why you are doing like this? So many people tell them, even though I mean most of us don't listen to that. We do what we have to, which is fine. But that is the reason also that instant gratification thing is there, that I know what I'm doing is right, and whatever is the after effect we'll manage now, we'll do something about it. That term which is there now, we'll do some jugaad to fit it agar kuch gadbad ho gaya. So that term is really important. So yeah, that instant gratification thing operates so. And that is why I said that being mindful, stepping back, even if it is one or two couple of breaths before responding, when you do that journaling, that reflection, that gives you a space where you know what is benefiting you over the long run and what you need to shift. And that 639 breathing also is an exercise to clear your thought process so that you can really start understanding the difference between immediate gratification and being mindfully progressive in your decisions and moving ahead in life. So definitely
Um,
that is there.
yeah, so like ma'am, like you specifically stressed on that basic age group of 14 to 21, right? So I'd again like to bring a question that is a bit related to relationship, but this time it is parental relationship. As
Mhm.
to how when a child is in his like a person, or rather I might say, in his or her teenage age, how is that there is a basic building of mistrust between the parents and the child when they're in their adolescence, right? So when it happens, there is a dilution of trust, and the parents try to over like handle the reins over their child more and more. So that mistrust, is it right, or is the parental control right, or what is the right thing in this situation rather?
So, from whatever experience I've had with, and specifically when you're asking about teenagers, um, I have been working majority of my journey with the adolescents, And from what experience I've had, I would say that we can't say if it is good or bad or right or wrong if the parents are mistrusting other child, or it is vice versa. Actually, lack of trust is not good wherever it happens. But uh, when any kind of incident happens where either of the parties actually, having an experience where the trust is challenged, I would say that is more a question towards to be put towards the person who's actually mistrusting the other one. That why is this thing triggering me so much? And that is where actually parents also lag and the child also lags, because we have not been taught from that lens. Most of the times when parents see that their teenager is actually behaving in a way which doesn't seem appropriate to them, the defense mechanism of the parental side gets activated, where they start seeing the threat for their child, that because they understand that the child is not completely grown up enough to take his or her own decisions, so they feel that what they are telling is right. But because of the brain development, as I was just explaining, the child also feels that what I am thinking is completely right, and that is the reason peers are more trusted than the parents. And so there is a mental conflict between the parents and the child, and either of them feel that the other one is not trusting them. And the way to balance that is to, from the beginning, uh, self questioning, first of all, if I am angry or if I'm feeling bad, is there anything I need to check upon in my behavior? First thing. Second thing is that how can I make this situation better? Can we sit and talk across the table? Can I explain my perspective in a much better way? And there are tools like assertive communication, wherein you are able to explain your point of view to the other side without hurting the emotions or giving the other person a insecure kind of a room. So I would say that is, if that is the way even parents start to handle, and if that is the way children start to also understand their parents, it will be much more nicely managed when we are talking about the relationships. So I would look at it like this.
Yeah, ma'am, that is really well elaborated by you. Also, ma'am, since you talked about the energies, that is how positive and negative energies surround us. So, there is one question from the audience. The question is by Vansh Gupta. He says, ma'am, you said about positive and negative energies are always surrounding us. But our mind conveniently ignores the positive forces and magnifies the negative energies, which gives us a mental baggage and stress. How can you program our mind to accept the positive aspects and keep our stability to fight the negative forces?
Thank you for your question, Varun. Uh, and as I was, talking, the first and foremost step to actually deal with uh, or attracting more of positivity and eliminating negativity is being mindful about the self talk, as I just mentioned. So it starts from our own thought process and the control we are able to establish there. So when we are doing that 10 minutes of self reflective breathing at the pace of 639, as I just mentioned at the beginning of the session, that is a time when you are actually training your brain slowly every day. You are building the muscle of your mind. Just as we go to the gym, and if we want to lose say 5 kgs, 10 kgs, that is our aim. But the day when we land at the gym, we don't tell the instructor that I want this kind of target achieved just in 2 days. It has to be over a period of time, right? So similarly, when we are building the muscle of our mind through the steps like minding our self talk, doing this breathing, and also coming into a space of gratitude, which is the key to open the door to the positivity. And when I say gratitude, basically, if you practice this little tip, when you get up in the morning, have you ever started your day by thanking the divine force that is above all of us, if you believe in that, kind of a concept? Because there is some force that is waking all of us up every day, that is running the entire system of the universe. If you ever start your day by thanking that force and finding minimum 4 or 5 reasons to be thankful in your own life, you will see that you have started your day on a positive note already. And then automatically you are focusing your attention on positive more, and negative will slowly get away from your thought process, at least majority of the day. So those 4 or 5 reasons for thanking can be: number one, you opened your eyes, you got another chance to create something new in your life. Number two, your loved ones got the same chance. Number three, you have a fully functioning healthy body. And for us, all of those who have not got affected by COVID, I think that's a big reason to be thankful for these days. And another reason can be all of you are fortunate to be educated from such a brilliant institute, or do whatever you have been aiming for in life. Not everybody is fortunate, and you can increase this list to however much you want. So small things like this can really take you a long way and can really gear up your positivity level on a daily basis.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think those are the very things we need to bear in our mind when we think of the negative and the positive consequences of our very decisions and actions, and when it comes from the mind itself. And moving on to another note, and keeping in mind the recent COVID pandemic in our minds, and we have thoroughly searched your website as to you have a blog and an Instagram live relating to COVID anxiety and stuff. And within that purview, I would like to bring the very concept of family relationships. And we, in this COVID pandemic times, we got one thing that we missed before COVID, that is family time. We got to sit up with our parents, with our grandparents, right, our brothers and sisters. But how is it that when there is a kind of mistrust within a family, how was this COVID pandemic when they all sat within the same wall? How was it affecting them? What were the consequences of it? When there is a tense conflict between families before COVID, and in COVID they had to spend all the time together. So if you would please elaborate on that.
That's again very important, because during this pandemic, the kind of shift I've seen in terms of the concerns that people have been coming with in the clinic, it's really shifted. And one of that has been COVID parenting. That's the term that's being used these days. And that has been a challenge for both the parents as well as the children. Because earlier what used to happen is that we used to look forward to that family time, because all of us were so used to being in our own routines, and spending time with our own selves in our own ways, getting out and meeting friends or going to workplaces, colleagues. We all had our own routines which gave us our space, but we never realized it. Now, when everything was shut, and when that commotion that used to happen every day in our life completely was forcefully, stopped beyond a particular level, and there's a new kind of lifestyle we all were forced to get used to. So the result of that was that the emotions that were inside us, both positive and negative, had to be realigned. And the challenge was that that realignment was not really, um, you know, um, something that came naturally to all of us, because we never thought about it. Nobody of us, I'm sure, that thought like that there will be a day when all of us is completely just homebound. There is lockdown. We have to think even to go and buy daily supplies. So everybody had their own share of frustrations. There was more of monitoring of children by parents. There was more of monitoring between partners. There was more of tolerance and patience testing for people of each other, how much we are able to respect in the mutual coexisting space. So that has led to a lot of transformation of relationships between families and otherwise as well. And for people who have been aware of the concepts like mindfulness and respecting and agreeing to disagree, I would say, have been the ones who have sailed through. But those who did not realize it earlier actually started to find that family time suffocating beyond a point. And when that started to happen, that was the point where all of a sudden there was a shift in number of depression cases I saw were very, everybody saw that they were raised. Anxiety cases and panics also started, coming a lot. And that is the reason that things like yoga, things like meditation, all of these, and your immunity kadhas and Ayurveda and everything started to, kind of boom. So I would say there has been a mix of scenario. One is the lesson for us is that we can, survive without the madness of real life every day. We can live our life more peacefully if we choose to, with mindful way of living our life. And every relationship and human being should set some boundaries and learn to exist and coexist within that same.
Looks like we have lost Shruti. She's no longer there. Can't see her in the gallery.
Maybe net has gone or what happened?
Yes, some connectivity issue. So she'll be back. We can wait for 2 minutes, and no online event is complete without these hurdles and impediments. So we had quite a few. Yeah. So students, how many questions remaining?
Samson, would you like to tell?
Ma'am, I think one or two we were actually planning to substantiate like on the basis of questions. उनके जो answers है, उसके basis पे एक दो questions सब पूछ रहे हैं.
Let me call her. Let me see where she is. She's trying. She's trying to come back. Yeah, she's there. Shruti is there. I can see Dr. Shruti in the gallery. Shruti, can you hear us? You need to unmute yourself. Ishan, you need to unmute Dr. Shruti. She is with us. Ishan. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you, Dr. Shruti. It was such an engaging talk on personal values and, the way life, changed for all of us during the pandemic. But you know what? Pandemic was just, as one of our speakers pointed out, I think pandemic was just a break. It was an intermission. Okay. And we have to see life in continuity. And even earlier, before pandemic, we had issues like compatibility issues. And because of the, change in the socio familial setup, I would say, because we see that, if we are complaining about tolerance within the families, and even outside the families, could it be largely due to the the change in the family and social structure? I mean, we have now moved to nuclear families, and everyone is so individualistic and demanding, and nobody is ready to bend, compromise, or take a back seat. Everyone wants to be in the center stage and all of that. And because of which we see that even children, even young children, the teenagers, they have compatibility issues with parents, and they would not listen to. I mean, this is a general complaint. If you go to any mother's group, and you will see that they will complain about children not listening to their mothers, not being obedient, and all of that. So I mean, there's a whole range of issues, which is engulfing the younger generation. And I think it all emanates from a basic a basic change in the value system, the kind of upbringing we give to our younger generation these days, and the kind of values we put in them. I mean, if we are teaching them to be individualistic, to be, strong-minded, so they are raising their voice for even small things, and they are not ready to go back. So what do you think? I mean, the compatibility issues, or the whole thing of boundary, everyone wants to have their privacy, and, they want to, they want not to be, they don't want their personal space to be encroached by anybody, be their parents or life partners, anybody. So what do you think? Is my evaluation right, or yeah? Yes, Shruti, we can't hear you. Is it only me who can't hear Dr. Shruti, or others who have the same experience?
We also can't hear her. Maybe her network issue.
Ma'am is not audible.
Her mic is on right now, but we cannot hear her. Maybe she's trying to say something.
She's
I
not
don't
even
think
visible.
so. Her mic is working. So her mic, maybe she's facing some trouble with the internet.
Dr. Shruti, we can't hear you. Are you there? Shruti, try speaking. We can't hear you. Can you hear us? Am I audible to you, Shruti?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah, so I am actually side by side. I just joined from my phone also, in case if now this doesn't work, I would try to join from there as a backup. So yeah, I mean, you were saying, Shubha, I think that has everything what you say is relevant when you are talking about this. But I would say it's due to the pandemic, what also happened was that all of us in our own spaces, as parents or as, children, more than that, we are human beings first, as I said. And when any kind of challenge or a threat is there, when our defense mechanisms kind of become active, then the capability to actually think practically and neutrally also comes under a lot of challenge and threat. And then anxiety and negative emotions start taking over and playing as automatic, programming of our behavior and expression. And when that happens, automatically the tolerance will go down for anything. And that is the reason when your insecurity starts surfacing and we don't know. And unknowingly, that insecurity which is surfacing starts to reflect in our behavior. And that is when, after initial time, if you notice, when the lockdown started, initially, people were having a nice time with each other in the house and we were enjoying it for a bit. But when after a while we realized that it is actually, affecting people's living and basic, existence for some of the people, that is when the disturbance started to get even, getting worse. And that is one of the contributors, I would say, due to which the entire mental makeup of people in general got under a lot of transforming phase. And that's when, people started to realize that they need to look inwards and or maybe seek help outside, which was not really possible because people were not able to go out. And then you are not comfortable, reaching out if you are in a limited environment. So it was not one factor, it was multiple factors, I would say. One, that was a fear of the disease. Second was this, going down of tolerance. Then due to that, the insecurity and the kind of, lifestyle we all were used to leading in terms of independence. I think all of that getting affected got to this kind of a combination of behavior and the expression of emotions that people have been displaying now. That's what is my take on that.
Absolutely, ma'am. That is actually a very good tips and a very good analysis of what ma'am actually asked. And now we actually have a question from one of our attendees. His name is Sehshnu Sharma, and he is asking, ma'am, how to just divert our mind towards the process of activities rather than focusing on consequences of activities.
So that is possible only when you learn to live in the present moment. And that is one of the key tools, I would say, to learn to progress towards having a positive lifestyle and understanding that present moment is the only moment where creation is happening, where you are creating. Because what has happened is in past, and past is past, right? And the future hasn't happened yet. So once we realize this and mindfully pull ourselves back from our past thoughts and worrying about the future, we start focusing on the activity rather than the consequences. But that doesn't mean that you should not plan ahead or something. But planning is one thing, but only living in planning is something that doesn't work. So mindfully focusing on the present is something that will make you focus on the activity and not on the consequence. And having that confidence and faith on your own self also is something that will contribute to that.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful answer that you gave. So, ma'am, I would like to let everybody know that you are also pursuing and working on a doctoral research which is entitled upon the adolescence. And here we have another question from the audience. So, Yash Mittal is asking that in teenage years, friends feel more real than the family. Like we feel more comfortable with friends rather than the parents, and he's asking why does it happen.
So I just want to make that little correction that actually I finished that thesis and earned my degree for the same title in 2008. I don't want to do it again now, but that's okay. But yes, that question is still relevant, what you have brought on the table. So why that happens is because I explained that when you are in your teens, so starting right from your early teens, from the age of 11 and going till your late teens, like 19, in that journey, the thought process of a teenager, the way it works is very different from how it is working for the parents. Because the development of your, cerebral cortex, which is the prime area responsible for certain kind of thought processes to surface and affect our behavior, that development is still to get completed in the teen, which has already happened for the parent. That is one. Secondly, the emotional journey that the parents have taken is obviously of more years as compared to the child. So the views don't match there, and the peer group is almost of the same age group. So you think from a similar level, and that thought process is pretty similar. So the level at which the peers will see the threat, or they will, understand you, may not match the level of how the parents look at it, because they are anticipating certain things which the child is not able to see, and that is why the clash in point of view is there. And that is why you end up trusting, because my friend won't judge me, my peer group won't judge me. They also have same insecurities or same, inquisitiveness about things that you would have, which will not be the case with your parents. And that's the reason why that happens.
All right, ma'am. I just have last question for the day because we are a bit short on time. Just one last question. As you have mentioned, parents and the child, I again have a similar question on similar lines. That in the children, like when they are from that age group of 10 to 20 or between that timeline, they actually have low tolerances, right? They can't tolerate that much which their parents can, or people who are higher up the age chain can actually do. So in that, they force relationships like friends, they make friends, they have a parental relationship, they have a family relationship, and they actually don't have that built up tolerance level. So when something goes south, how are they expected to take care of that? How are they like expected that everything goes all right after they have done something? The consequences are not bad actually.
So how should the children behave? That's what you're asking.
Yes, ma'am. Like, how can the parents to ensure from that side on the receiving end that something of a bad consequence doesn't happen actually?
So how does the child behave in a way? I lost you in between, so that's why I'm not able to join the pieces. Can you quickly repeat
Uh,
the question?
yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Actually, the weather here is actually a bit bad.
Yeah.
So, like, my question to you is like a child when they are from the age group of 10 to 20, they don't have that tolerance level built in, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Which their parents or somebody who is bigger than them actually have. So my question to you is when something goes south, when their impulsive actions have happened, how they are expected, like the parents or the people on the receiving end are expected to view that or can do things right so that the things may not go south.
So I think, in such a situation, both the child and the parents would need to look into their way of operating and their thought processes. First of all, mutual faith is very, very important, which will come from the upbringing journey and the journey both these people have taken together. The parents would need to trust their upbringing system and value system, and the children would also need to understand that at the end of the day, the parents are the ones who have created them, so would not, under any circumstances, want to do or say something that is completely and only anti them, or they are only seeing that from them from the judgmental space, which is what mostly happens, because parents are the ones who've been mostly, telling their kids that this is right, that is wrong, and do a particular thing in this way. Don't take liberty of the freedom we are giving you. Just because you're in college, don't think that you're, too smart to behave whatever you want to. So all those things actually are registered in the, youths or the child space as a threat, as someone who's not understanding us. And that is what happens, which in extreme cases leads to some kind of impulsive behavior, which leads to certain consequences which may be very unpleasant. So I would say being mindful, having that faith, and often, taking out time once in a while to sit and exchange the point of views both the parties have, whether it is parents or it is the children. Both should know and exchange point of views in their spaces. So having that quality time together is also important, I would say. That will also go a long way to stop such kind of a thing. So these are few things one can do to overcome that.
Thank you, ma'am, again. It was really an enriching and fruitful session of how we are supposed to go about our lives. And it was really enriching from your side that you took the efforts to bless us all with your knowledge. And with this, since we are short of time, I would like to call upon Dr. Shubha Dwivedi, ma'am, to give away the thank you note. Over to
Thank you, Dr. Shruti. I can't thank you enough because the session has been really enlightening and you have touched upon some very important issues, some sensitive issues, and you shared your expansive knowledge with us. And I'm sure our students are going to utilize this knowledge in improving their lives and in working upon their, holistic system. And this was truly, bringing out the best version. So this is in your hands, students. So I mean, the more you are open to new ideas, and also the more you are compatible and and you are in a harmonious and syncretic relationship with people around you, with your surroundings, the more positive and stable you are likely to become, and the best version would not be far away from that. So on this note, I would like to ask President Nimbus Ishan Chatterjee to declare the awards for the various sessions. And yes, Dr. Shruti, it was a great pleasure having you with us. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation, taking time out for joining us, and answering all the queries with so much of patience and interest.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with all of you, and I'll be happy to answer further queries if students have. And feel free to reach me, and I'll be very happy to have, another kind of a chat session with this vibrating and young energy. So thank you so much for making a part of this, and have a very good evening.
Thank you so much. Ishan, are you there? Can we have the prizes
Yes,
now?
ma'am.
Can you declare
Yes,
the
ma'am,
results,
sure.
please? Because
1 second, ma'am. All right. So the prizes for the best interjections from each sessions. For Indu Agnihotri, we have Aditi Dudeja. For Shruti Jain, we have Vansh Gupta. For RJ Mehak, we have Vanshita Arora. For Sanjay Basak's session, we have Akshita Singh. For Miss Minakshi Reddy's session, we have Sayantan Chaudhary. And for Dr. Meetu Ghosla, we have Aryan Vimmi Arora. For the best set of moderators, we have Harkirat Verma and Rabha Chaudhary.
great job, students. We are so very proud of you. All the teachers are here. I can see Indrajit ji, and Indrajit ji, you can unmute yourself. Rosie, you can unmute yourself. The sessions are over. Shruti, are you still with us? We would want you to have a group click with you, group picture with you. Are you still there? Yeah, students, do share your feedback about the various sessions we've had since morning. And it's been an extremely fruitful day. We got to hear so many distinguished speakers. We learned a lot. We had fun sessions as well. And there were all kinds of queries and exchange of ideas. So it was a wonderful experience. And with this, I would like to thank all the members of the organizing committee, Dr. Indrajit Jha, Dr. Rosie Sinha, Ms. Maushami Ray, who have been there with me as my support system throughout since the morning. I'm also thankful to all the attendees for making the event so vibrant and session so energetic. And my team, of course, my team members from Nimbus, the organizing committee of students, all of you have been extraordinary, and we owe a lot of enthusiasm to you. And I mean, it was all because of your enthusiasm that the sessions could be so interesting and interactive. I'm indebted to our principal, Dr. Gyantosh Kumar Jhaji, for his visionary patronage and unconditional support in helping us create a meaningful and inspiring environment for the young orators. My heartfelt thanks to my colleagues from different departments who joined us at different points of time. And I'm grateful to the entire college administration for their tremendous goodwill, our media partners and our students who are the pillars of democracy. Finally, to Bursar sir and Ravinder Pant for the out of sight support, who although are not visible but play a critical role in organizing such events. And in the end, I mean, it is actually quite saddening that such good events come to a close. Like all good things come to an end. So there is a hope that we will meet again, and we will get another chance to to have another fruitful session like this. So in the meantime, I just want to wish all of you a great success in all that you do. Rosie Indrajit ji. Any thoughts, any suggestions, any ideas you would like to share with our viewers, with our attendees? Ishan, you have to get Rosie ma'am unmuted.
1 second, ma'am. I'll just check.
Yeah, please unmute Rosie ma'am and Indrajit sir. And tell everyone to turn their videos on so that we can have a group picture.
All the participants are requested to fill out the feedback form.
Yeah, so it was a wonderful day and we've had some excellent sessions, and I'm sure our students are feeling much more enriched, and it was a wonderful day. I must congratulate each one of you, all students, all those who've contributed to this in any manner. Wonderful job. And I know you all must be very tired, and just for this one day, you must have been working, planning things. I mean, so many nitty-gritties to be planned. So well done students, well done team members, all the best. And we look forward to even better events in near future. Best wishes always.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you so much for such nice words. Yes,
I would
Indrajit ji.
request all the Nimbusites to kindly turn on their cameras if possible. All the Nimbusites, all the attendees to kindly turn on their cameras. Hi everyone.
Hello, Deep Smita, Sayantan, Hera. I got an opportunity to hear all of you. And
Please turn on your cameras.
All
no, I
bright.
was surprised. I was surprised to hear Aryan. He's our first year honors students, and he
Yeah.
could host a session. So
Yeah.
such drastic change, and we are so proud of
Very well.
all of them. And
Very
really,
well. Brilliant.
This was really very good program, and credit goes to the team members and the team leader, Subha ma'am. And congratulations, ma'am, for organizing such a good program, and in this corona crisis, and even in this crisis situation, you arrange this program. That is really credit must goes to you and the entire team. And my congratulations to everyone. Thank you.
thank you, Indrajit ji. Thank you for your kind words. I mean, with all of you, with your support and everyone else's support, I think this could have been made possible. And most importantly, our principal sir really wanted this kind of event to be organized for Nimbus, by Nimbus, for Nimbus. Okay, so that was the greatest stimulus, or you can say the motivating factor for organizing this kind of event. And I believe that our job has been done well. We have we've had very good sessions, and the speakers were, quite open and liberal in sharing their ideas. So it was a great day. Yes, Ishan, so have you clicked the pictures?
Yes, ma'am. I've taken plenty of pictures. Everyone, please smile. We'll take one more picture.
Pat on your back, Ishan. Another victory in your kitty.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Another
ma'am.
great
Thank you.
event.
Me
well
and my team
coordinated
as well,
event.
all the people,
Very well
all the people
coordinated.
all the moderators, thank you so much. You guys did a fantastic job. All the people who were working on the back end, the digital team, the content team, you guys were amazing. You guys
Definitely.
worked
Where is
really
Aditi?
hard, really
Where are
very
both
hard.
the Aditis? Aditi Tudeja and Aditi Srivastava. Are they not there?
Aditi Srivastava is traveling, so she won't be here.
Aditi
Aditi
Tudeja is also.
here. No, she's here, I guess.
Dudeja was here, I suppose. But anyways, all the members from
Very
Nimbus,
true. I
you
mean,
guys were
I
amazing.
really, I mean, it's not possible for me to take out each and every person's name, but I definitely believe that each of you gave your best. Sarthak, Anushka, Adishri, Soumya, Komal, Chinmay, all of you were there with us throughout, and it has been a hassle-free event. And I mean, for the first time, I could believe that, our students were becoming, confident in handling long events. And I mean, it was not possible to have this kind of a long event, from morning till evening. We have been working continuously and without any break. We did not even have a break in between. So remarkable, and congratulations to all of you. We owe the success of this event to you. All right. So I'm
We would
leaving.
also like to thank you for your valuable contribution to the ongoing discussions that we have been there.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
Actually,
ma'am, for being a constant support. And without you, I don't think we have been able to put up this event so smoothly. Thank you
but
so
then
much.
I just have to confess that I was keeping, I was asking questions to keep myself awake because I wanted to doze off during the sessions. Had it been a normal day in seminar hall, I would have gone, dozing for sure. But this was like continuously, I was sitting in a chair, so I had to ask something so that I could.
So a
remain
huge
awake.
round of applause for all of you.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you for being there. Yeah, now all of us can leave. Ishan, we are leaving now.
Yes, ma'am.
Teachers are leaving.
We'll take a couple of photographs and then we'll leave.
Are you not done
Guys,
yet?
please don't. Yeah, I've taken a couple of photographs, but I want everyone to smile in their pictures, right? So everyone, please smile. Thank you. We are done.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, everyone. Thank you so much
Bye-bye.
for coming. It was a pleasure to have you
All
here.
the best, everyone.
All right.
Yeah,
All the best,
bye.
people.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you all the
Bye-bye.
participants for being till the end.